Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to talk about how I'm making loads of money with Jewelcrafting. I took a couple weeks to level up to 70. Once I did, I started just kind of diving into the whole Jewelcrafting scene, and I've developed some methods that work really well for me. They're making me more than 1,000 gold a day. I'm on track to make about 30,000 gold over the course of this month, which I'm really excited about. And I want to show you guys what I'm doing. There are three main ways that you can make money with Jewelcrafting, and I'm going to be going over all of those in this video. And they are prospecting, cutting gems, and crafting items. First, let's take a look at prospecting. Prospecting is a skill that takes 5 ore and breaks it down into gemstones. Different ore will give you different gemstones. It's important to understand that you have a break-even point for what you're going to get out of the ore. And this means that the price that you're paying for the ore has to be less than the expected gains that you would get from the gemstones. If you've watched any of my other videos, you probably would have guessed that I had made a spreadsheet to track all this stuff. This is kind of how I play the game. Like, everything goes in a spreadsheet, and this is how I like to play. So what I like to do is I go through and look up the price of each of the gemstones that we can get out of the ore that we are going to be prospecting. I've done this a little bit with some of the old classic ores, mainly back when I thought that the prices of the old world gemstones were way too expensive for what I wanted to spend. I was going through and prospecting some old world ore to try and get some of the gemstones that I needed. And if the price was low, I was also trying to prospect this ore and sell the gems for a profit. All right, so we're mainly looking at adamantite here. This is going to give us the highest likelihood that we're going to get the blue gems, which is where we're going to make the majority of our money. First, I'll go through and look up the prices of all of the uncut gems. And you can do this with a shopping list in an auction add-on. I'm using Auctionator for this. I think you can also do shopping lists in TSM. I haven't bothered learning how to set that up. I probably will at some point. Or you can, of course, look these up by hand. So once we have all of our prices, I'll put them in my worksheet, and I have the estimated likelihood of getting the gems for each prospect. I'll also put in my general cost for each adamantite ore and how much I ended up buying. And then finally over here, I have each day how much ore I've been buying, and I generally try and keep it below this break-even point. And then I'll go ahead and prospect it. And then in this column, I will type in how many I get. So here we have living rubies, and I got 3 this morning when I did some prospecting. So after I enter all this in, I will get my estimated profit from the prospect on its own. And here you can see that my shopping list went through and scanned each of the uncut gems, and you can easily grab your prices from here. So my break-even point at the moment is about 2 gold for ore. So in general, I like to try and grab like a few hundred if I'm going to go through and prospect. And I'll usually try and buy things that are under, like a little bit under the break-even point. So we're going to go ahead and buy everything up until 1 gold, 80 silver. Looking back at our results, here are all the blue gems that we got this morning. The next step is to either sell the raw gems or to cut them and sell them if you could make a better profit. So the name of the game is turning over your product. This way we could take our profits and use them to either buy more ore to prospect, buy raw uncut gems if you're going to make a pretty good margin by cutting them, and you also use your profits to buy more patterns so that you can cut more of the expensive gems. So I like to keep a good cushion of gold so that I can use that to buy up things as I see them at a good price. So if I saw like someone list 100 stacks of ore at like 1 gold, 50 silver. I want to be able to buy all of that. And having this gold cushion will let me do that. Okay, I'm going to show you how I look at prices and compare them to what's selling and what cuts I have. So we're going to look up Living Ruby. So I have my Living Rubies up on the auction house, and I also have all the cuts that I have collected so far. So I want to look at the price of an uncut Living Ruby right now is 94 gold. If I were to cut it, it would sell for 15 more gold if it was a runed, and more so if it were, like if I had the delicate pattern, which I don't yet. Oh, I'm going to just buy that. Give it to me. Oh shoot, I just bought 2. Alright, I'm going to learn this recipe. I accidentally bought 2 of them. I'm just going to have to resell it and hopefully not lose too much money on that. Okay, so now I can cut some delicate Living Rubies. And since the delicates sell for about 55 gold more than the uncut versions, I'm going to cut 2 of those and see how they move. So I'm showing you the crafting queue feature of TSM. Once you queue up a pattern, you just click on it when it's in your crafting queue, and it'll craft the number of items that you have listed. In general, I would usually queue up a lot of different patterns, especially if I'm going through and checking prices and then just seeing how much things are selling for. I'll queue up a bunch of things, and then I'll go either, if I'm buying the uncut gems, I'll go to the mailbox and pick those up so I can come back and cut them. All right, so when I'm listing the gems, I always use the 12-hour duration, because if I do get undercut, I don't want to have to cancel and lose more of a deposit and then go and relist them that way. Okay, and now I have my delicate Living Rubies down here, and hopefully they sell. So when you're buying patterns, you want to consider how many cuts you're going to have to do to pay for that pattern, essentially. So I spent 700 gold on my pattern. And the current profits for cut delicate Living Rubies is 55 gold. So you take the cost of the pattern, you divide it by the profit per cut. So I would have to do 13 gems. If I sell 13 gems, that pays for the pattern. And that's just a quick and easy way to kind of decide whether a pattern's right for you. Obviously, the gems that are going to sell better are going to be the ones that are recommended by all of these best in select gearing guides for different classes. So a lot of the red gems are going to sell really well. So any of the pure stats, so agility, pure spell power, those type of gems are going to sell really well. Another category of gems that will sell really well, especially as people start raiding, are all of the hit gems. So that was one of the first patterns I got. I got some of the melee and spellcaster hit rating gems. And then also, I sold them all already, but a lot of the orange ones. So you have Veiled, which is the spell hit and spell damage. And then you have Glinting, which is agility and hit rating for noble topazes. So I was considering 2 different criteria when I was selecting which designs I wanted to buy first. First of all, will it sell? So take a look at all those gearing guides for the different classes. If you're curious, just type into Google best gems, TBC, classic, hunter, or insert your class. That'll give you a very short list of the gems that those classes should be using. And the second thing you want to look at is how much profit you're going to make off certain cuts. So we've already been looking at Living Rubies, which has a pretty high margin. Now, if you notice, the uncut gems are 95 gold. If you have a cut flashing ruby, it's not selling very well. Someone keeps listing them lower and lower. They're probably realizing that they probably shouldn't have used that cut on that specific gem unless someone asked for it. And I guess the same thing with the bright Living Rubies. At least at this point in time, they're selling for less than an uncut gem. And then I'll show you another example. Let's take a look at Night's Eye. Let's take out this exact thing. and take a look at all of the cuts. So the Night's Eye, all the cuts are profitable right now, which is great. Now, if you don't have a whole lot of money and you're just getting started with jewel crafting, I would recommend focusing on prospecting and just selling off all the uncut gems. There's going to be a lot more demand for uncut gems than there will be for cut, because you have both people that are trying to save a little bit of money buying the uncut gems and having a jewel crafter cut them for a small fee. And you also have jewel crafters that are looking for cheap gems to cut and make a profit on. The people searching for those uncut gems is going to be a lot bigger than if you were to cut them and try to sell them. Anytime you are making an item for the first time, I would only make 1 or 2 and see how fast it sells. For me, the orange gems have been selling really well, especially the ones that have the hit built into them. I think people like to have a little bit of spell damage with their hit instead of just going pure damage and then pure hit from the yellow gems. It ends up being a lot cheaper for someone to get 2 orange gems than for them to get a red and a yellow gem, at least at this point in time. All right, and that's about it for gems. As a jewel crafter, you get a ton of recipes out in the world, so if you don't have a lot of money to spend, or maybe you've already collected a lot of the purchase patterns like I have, you can start going through and looking up the gems that sell that you do not have the cuts for. Find out if they drop in the world or if they come from reputation. Those are going to be the 2 other ways that you're going to get the rest of your gem cuts. And you go and get farming. Okay, so that's about it for our cuts. Now I want to talk about some of the other patterns. As a jewel crafter, you can make rings and necklaces. Some of these necklaces that have the unused charges are recommended for on a lot of best in slot lists. So you might have like a caster pumper group, and you would have your players wearing these necklaces that gives an extra buff to everybody in your party. Like I'm playing an elemental shaman, and recommended to elemental shamans is to rotate with someone else using a twilight chain of twilight owl and then the eye of the night necklaces. These have 10 charges, so they're going to be consumable, which is great for jewel crafters because that means that we're going to be able to make good money off of these. Currently, the profits on these necklaces is pretty high. I've only managed to sell a couple of them. I think as more people start doing the 25-mans, and especially once SSC and the Eye open up, we're going to see a lot more players using these necklaces. So get these patterns right now while they're cheap. I think I spent like 60 gold for one of them, and I happened to get lucky and have the other one drop for me. And then for all the other items, I don't know if I would make these to sell. I guess it depends on the materials, and yeah, you know what? I might try making 1 or 2 of these other necklaces, and maybe even some of these rings. This ring isn't that good. I'm probably not going to make that. But these other 2 necklaces, I think there might be a couple others. I'm going to make one of those and see if it sells, and just kind of replace that as I continue to get my money back from the sold products. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I have right now. I'm making a ton of money with jewel crafting right now. I also have alchemy on this character, and I expect alchemy is going to pick up a lot more as people get into raiding. So I think in the next week or 2 here, I'm going to start ramping up what I'm doing for alchemy as well, and just kind of make loads of gold that way too. So if you would like me to go into any more detail about jewel crafting, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching my video. If you would like to help me out, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!